Hey guys, Jean-Claude here at Beyond Mystic. Today, here on November 8th, back for a special report. I want to talk about all of this fear porn surrounding Trump. So bear with me, I have quite a few things on the slide deck to share with you guys, and hopefully by the end of this video, this will all make sense to why I'm doing this today. So first of all, let's go to the first tab here. I'm referring to an article by the Washington Post dated December 20th, 2023. It was an opinion piece. Yes, it's okay to compare Trump to Hitler. Don't let me stop you. Okay, let's do just that. Let's get started, guys. So, of course, a big part of the narrative in the last couple of weeks of the campaign was this association of Trump and Hitler-esque type of initiatives, language, and tactics being used in his campaign. In this article from Zero Hedge, they tracked about 5,000 or more articles in 1 week with this total Trump-Hitler blitzkrieg. So again, permeating the airwaves with this narrative. So let's look at that for a second. I want to play this video from the New York Post. So actually, this was posted on the New York Post here, but it was MSNBC facing fierce backlash here for using Nazi rally clips during the coverage of the Donald Trump historic campaign at Madison Square Garden. Let's play that clip here, and we'll come right back to the documentary.
And that place is particularly chilling because in 1939, more than 20,000 supporters of a different fascist leader, Adolf Hitler, packed the garden for a so-called pro-America rally, a rally where speakers voiced anti-Semitic rhetoric from a stage draped with Nazi banners. When a Jewish protester rushed the stage, the Associated Press reported, quote, instantly, a dozen or more stormtroopers set upon him, knocking him down and beating him as he held his head in his arms. Right now, you see it there on your screen.
So there you have it. That was the association made here by MSNBC at Madison Square Garden. Now, they neglect to mention to you all the love that Trump got at this particular MAGA party here in New York. And there's a many videos that show you what transpired that evening. And it was nowhere close to having any rhetoric resembling Nazism. That being said, they also, the mainstream news, neglected to mention, let me see if I can get to this second page here. Hold on. This one here. So that was the love for Trump here in the New York Post. Same article again, but different connotation, of course. People on the ground reporting also, you know, if you were there, you felt the love in the room. And this gentleman here is suggesting that the biggest threat to mainstream media narrative is, of course, reality. So the more we share this information, the more it comes out and the more we can counter this propaganda machine. Now, also, what's interesting to note is that the mainstream media kind of neglected through all of that to let you know that JFK also had his Nazi rally at Madison Square Garden in 1962, right? So it's not just Trump. But again, nobody ever accused JFK of having a Nazi rally, even though he was using that same venue. Bill Clinton also held his Nazi rally at Madison Square Garden in 1992. So you could see here how some of that reporting, at the very least, could be subjected to being biased. Now, what's interesting also, Tim Walz and Kamala both are gun owners. They've said so on many shows, but typically Kamala ran her campaign on gun confiscation, many clips about her and what she was proposing to do here in North America. And so in comparison, again, as the Washington Post is suggesting we do, here's a clip, of course, of Walz with his guns also here. And what was interesting, if you go here, Hitler disarming the population. Nazi Jews or Nazi laws systematically disarmed so-called unreliable persons, deplorables, garbage maybe, especially Jews, while relaxing restrictions for Nazi party members. Okay, so there we have Kamala and Walz both admitting they own guns, but yet wanting to remove guns from the population. So that's a nice comparison here moving forward. Now, Kamala Harris also in the campaign was proposing Soviet-style pricing controls. I thought that was very interesting. Again, just in some of these comparisons. Now we're getting to communism versus Nazism, but here too, Nazi price controls. I was just Googling this earlier today. Adolf Hitler had imposed price controls on German people in 1936 so that the government could buy war materials at artificially low prices. So again, just maybe a tactic here from the Democratic playbook, not necessarily from the Trump campaign. Again, let's take that all into consideration here as we listen to all of this media propagation. Now, this was interesting and perhaps more important than anything else. In August of this year, 2024, Zuckerberg, in testimony here, admitted that the Biden-Harris administration had pressured Meta to censor COVID-19 content. Now, it wasn't just COVID-19. It was the Afghanistan, well, first of all, you can go read the letter here. Let me bring that up for you guys. You'll find that on the Twitter feed. So it was also the Afghanistan withdrawal. Anybody criticizing the way it was done and the atrocities that happened afterwards, that was also being censored. We also had the big censorship, of course, of the laptop from hell here, the Hunter Biden laptop. And on that note, you have to remember that at that time, 51 intelligence agencies had written a letter in support of the fact that the Hunter Biden laptop was mere Russian propaganda. I, for one, lost my YouTube channel on this. We were accused of misinformation and disinformation. And of course, that was not the case. We have the reality today where Hunter Biden is facing 17 years in prison for information related to what was found in his laptop. Another thing that Facebook was accused of censoring was, of course, voter fraud information. And that's very troubling also because in our country, if we want to have fair elections, we should encourage people to report voter fraud, wouldn't we? Right? Unless we're cheating, we would want to verify that to make sure that everybody's vote actually counted, and that dead people aren't voting, and that illegals are not voted when they're not allowed to, and so forth. So this whole censorship apparatus between the White House, the DHS, and Facebook, Meta, and other companies was absolutely disastrous. And again, in comparison, as the Washington Post is asking us to do, that sounds a lot like book burning. In retrospect, now we can look at all the things that were deemed misinformation and disinformation have come to be true. And so we have to keep that in mind when the media is portraying Trump here as the Hitler or the Nazi party. Let's move down the deck here too. This was fascinating to me. This whole idea that Kamala's campaign slogan was introduced with this new rhetoric of strength through joy. And at the Democratic National Convention, Bill Clinton, Oprah Winfrey, a bunch of everybody taking the stage here, we're talking about choosing joy and the Queen of Joy. And it just kept going on and on and on and on about joy. And if you don't know history, that sounds kind of pretty cool, okay, because everybody's depressed in the United States and things are going really, really bad under these last 4 years of the Biden administration. A little bit of joy would be cool, right? But here's the problem with that. Again, I'm doing what the Washington Post has suggested we do. Let's compare. Well, that strength and joy slogan is actually a Nazi slogan. And so don't take it from me. Go to Wikipedia and you'll find it for yourself. This was established in 1933 as a tool to promote the advantages of Nazism through its structures and organized events and promotion of propaganda. Let me see if I'm on the right screen here for you guys. Sorry about that. It was also intended to prevent dissent from anti-state behavior. You mean complaining about what happened in Afghanistan, COVID-19, the Hunter Biden laptop story, the suppression of rights here, and perhaps illegal voting? So again, those comparisons are very interesting to make, and the media, like, they're really silent about this. They don't want to bring it up for you guys. And so if you listen to this speech here from Kamala Harris, this was after her slogan was put out, people were commenting that, yeah, she doesn't really sound very joyful.
Never again have the privilege of standing behind the seal of the President of the United States.
you get the drift there. Something else we can't forget was this particular address from President Biden at the time, and a lot of mainstream media also kind of reported that there's weird connotations there with the colors, the rhetoric, the anger in his voice, the raising of the hands, and the military people behind him. It was kind of odd, but we've never seen this from Trump. So again, let's do the comparison and have an honest adult conversation about it, right? Another thing we have to consider, just after the election here, as Kamala was conceding to having lost the election, she used the word fight 19 times in 12 minutes. So there's a big contrast there to what Mr. Trump was sharing with the audience members in his acceptance speech. He was talking about healing the country. He was talking about the theme for his administration, which was going to be promise made and promise kept, make America strong again, safe, healthy again, prosperous again. That doesn't sound like war rhetoric to me. And at the same time, what was interesting was all these people were telling us that the Trump voters, it was a minority. They were uneducated, they were racist, they were stupid and dumbed down. That's what we kept hearing in the mainstream news. Yet he won 312 electoral votes. That's of today here, November 8th. 5 million in popular vote lead. Like that's a big chunk of the U.S. who voted here. So it's not just the deplorables or whatever nomenclature you want to attach to the people voting for Trump. He won the House and also the Senate. So that's a landslide. So to suggest that Trump supporters are all these right-wing conspiracy nuts, then there's a lot of right-wing conspiracy nuts in the United States all of a sudden. So you have to consider that there's a lot of smart people here who have the best interests at heart of the United States, and they feel that they just weren't listening to the rhetoric. It didn't stick in terms of Trump being a Hitler. They want change, and Trump was offering positive change in his campaign. So we can't neglect that here moving forward. Looking at the map again here in terms of the counties, absolutely amazing. Red wave just swept through America. So again, putting that all into context for you guys. Now, when Biden called Americans garbage, let's see if I can play this clip here.
The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters.
So now the White House is frantically trying to say that that's not what he meant. They went as far as to change the record, the transcription service, the White House press level. It's just absolutely mind-boggling that he would say that. But at the same time, it enraged and empowered a lot of Americans who said, "No, I'm not garbage. I believe in these things. I believe in the rule of law. I believe in democracy. I believe in free speech." And so that divide just got bigger and bigger there. So if you're not paying attention to all of this and you're not looking at this in the context and comparing, you might be duped by this mainstream media machine that's trying to convey a specific picture to obtain their own, what appears to be a very biased opinion. Now, let's go to the threat of World War III as we're looking at the Trump fear porn scenario. This was a book, you can find it on Amazon. What may happen if Trump wins a second term? Well, let's talk about that. Within 2 hours of his win, the Houthis just called for a ceasefire. In and of themselves, they understand here that the war machine might be coming to a halt here, the one that was being funded here by the Democratic Biden-Harris campaign. At the same time, MSNBC were having a Trumpster fire here. They were beside themselves over the Trump victory, of course, and also Zelensky talking about peace in Ukraine all of a sudden. So this is within hours of Trump being elected. We're not going to war. We're talking about peace all of a sudden. What was interesting also is that Putin said that he was ready to talk with Trump about ending the war in Ukraine. And so this is all good things. This is not a Nazi hell-bent on war, at least not from the actions. And the enemies here on the screen of the country, I don't want to say enemies necessarily, but people in conflict around the world right now are seeing Trump perhaps as a mediating force to perhaps go back to peace. And I think that's very, very important to keep in mind moving forward. Now, something else that always has little fanfare is this idea or this fact that Trump had helped negotiate the Abrahamic Accords. And there are many scholars out there, if they're not politically inclined either way, would suggest that Trump should have had the Peace Prize for this. This accord still stands today, even though there's a lot of hot embedding fighting in the area. I think, again, it doesn't sound like a Hitler or a Nazi party when you look at what he's done here in the past. So again, let's just keep that in mind and keep moving here. So here, I think this is important. Your best predictor of future behavior is past behavior or past performance in a similar situation. So when these people tell you that Trump is going to be Hitler and he's going to jail journalists and he's going to go against the American people and all the rhetoric we've heard in the last weeks of the campaign, they forget to tell you that this guy was in office 4 years and we didn't see any of that. I would suggest much to the contrary. He didn't, well, he could. Well, let's play this clip here from Hillary Clinton. I'll get to that here in just a moment.
It's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Because you'd be in jail.
Secretary Clinton.
Okay, so that was an iconic moment there, but he's not saying that just for laughs. He's saying that here at that point because of the fact that she was ordered to share through subpoena here her emails, and that her staff had destroyed it. This was fact checked, and she did indeed use BleachBit and other protocols here to not render that information. So again, he could have put her in jail. He didn't. Is he going to do it this time around? Who knows? We'll see. But if the shoe fits, if the crime fits, why not? This is not akin to revenge or Nazism. It's about justice and rule of law. So we'll see here moving forward. In terms of putting journalists in jail, he didn't do that either when he was in office. He was pretty tough on them, and he called them out for all the fake news, which I thought was great. It really helped them, or helped us, kind of see through some of that fog of that propaganda. So on the contrary, I would thank him for what he did with the journalists. But again, free speech was allowed. They told him he was a racist, even though they couldn't point to any policies of it. They told him he was misogynist, a rapist, all these things. And he let them speak and didn't put him in jail. So again, let's use that moving forward. Now, I understand, like, on one part, the conservatives or the Republicans might be fearful of Trump here too in this new administration. We have to be honest that fear might be there. I think a lot of that has to do with this massive media propaganda machine in the last number of years telling us that he was a Hitler. So it's still there rattling around in our heads. So I would say to the conservatives, well, be cautiously optimistic here and keep those guys' feet to the fire moving forward and be very vigilant of this new administration. I think that's incumbent upon all of us in a democracy to do our part, that our leaders that we put in power do what we ask them to do. So that's what I have to say for the Republicans who might be fearing this. Now, for the Democrats, I thought this was absolutely fabulous. This is a tweet from Alexandros Marinos. You can find that on my Twitter and also on his Twitter there. He said, if you voted Democrat and you are feeling that the election result is truly horrifying, do this simple thing for your mind, for your mental health. Write down your fears of what might happen in the next 4 years on a piece of paper. Reread and check in on them every few months. It will be a constant source of relief when you see that your fears will not, in fact, come true. Then start asking yourself why those fears are there in the first place and how you can prevent those from forming the next time. I think that is absolutely critical. Well said, Alexandros. I really appreciate this post here and us being able to share this on mainstream news. I would add to that too, in terms of advice moving forward, is that we must demand better from our mainstream media news. We just can't afford anymore to have these 10-minute sound bites on the 6 o'clock news from our politicians in all different types of misleading contexts tell us the reality of our world. We must demand more akin to this, the Joe Rogan interview with Trump that we saw during the campaign, the 3 hours unscripted interview. We need to see more people sharing the reality here on social media platforms. And to that note, like, we have to say a big thank you again to Elon Musk here, because if you look at this chart, you can see the viewership at NBC, ABC, CBS, Evening News viewership over the last 20 years. Look at those charts. And so look at the viewership on X. So people are demanding better from mainstream news. And I think for all of us, whether you're a Democrat or a conservative, we need to ask better and we need to demand better. And to some extent, we need to be part of that news. So if that's you, then pick up the microphone, pick up a camera. Hell, if I can do it, you guys can do it. And we're clearly going to make a difference together if we can shape our reality and be more vigilant about some of these tactics that were being used against us to obfuscate reality from us. So I think this is a really good thing moving forward. So whatever side of the aisle you are right now, and if you're having fear, I think it's warranted on both sides, honestly, partly because of all of this rhetoric of division and hate that was pushed through us, and also because we're not used to maybe being responsible in and of ourselves here for our politicians. And I think this is the key to all of this moving forward. We need to each take an active role in our democracy moving forward. So I hope that makes sense, guys. And I hope that kind of helps you, I guess, reestablish your footing here in this new reality that's forming behind us, or in front of us, should I say. And so if you like this content and you want to hear more about it, please join me here on Rumble. You can find me, of course, at Beyond Mystic. You can find me also here on my Twitter. I post there daily about the schedule and all of these special report shows there as well. So a big thank you to all of you listening here today. I appreciate you being here. And I appreciate that we can share this information, have an honest conversation about these comparisons, and see where it makes sense and see where it doesn't, and so that we can be vigilant moving forward. But at the end of the day, we have to, again, look at that map, the electoral map here of what just happened. The popular vote, the Senate, and the House, that's a lot of Americans, and a lot of smart Americans voting for change, voting for peace, voting for a better America, stronger, safer. We have to give it a chance. And join me in giving this a chance. And join me in demanding better also from your mainstream news. I'm Jean-Claude, Beyond Mystic. I love you guys. Have a great day, and we'll see you soon.